I decided to start lending as a private money lender on different projects, fix and flips, some transactional loans. Had some good deals, some good returns, some bad deals. Some I'm still working on recovering because that's how it is. You live and you learn.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Purpose Driven Investment Podcast, where we talk strategy, learn from each other, and create returns that matters. Today, I'm so honored to have my friend Raz Mihalyi. We also call him Raz. He's well known among our community. Everybody call him Raz. How are you doing, Raz?
Hey, Shinyi. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me on this podcast today. It's the end of the day. I know you have like back to meeting up to this point. Hopefully, I will be your last meeting. So
Almost.
right, almost there. Well, so without further ado, I wanted to get on the podcast with you because I know recently that you've been pretty highlighted in our platform that you were helping with building out a new product called Creative Listing. This is such a game changer. I would definitely ask you to dive into that further. But before we get onto that, I wanted to know about you. So how did you get into real estate? Because you're not a real estate background. You're a software engineer, right?
Yeah, that is right. It's a pretty common path with a lot of professionals, a lot of W-2 employees. They just want to diversify their investments, their portfolio. So I started looking at real estate as a way to invest in something other than the stock market, which you have very little control over. I wanted to add something with a bit more control. Well, to a certain extent. I don't know how much control you can have over a lot of aspects in real estate, but a bit more than what some CEO or some board of directors is deciding in a company. And I think about 3 years ago, my wife and I decided to take the leap and to buy a rental property. And it was during COVID. And what was popular during COVID was short-term rentals. And there was another thing, though. We didn't just jump on the bandwagon and on the latest fad. We also knew that doing short-term rentals is going to be a tax advantage. So taking advantage of the short-term rental loophole to offset some of our active income, that's something that attracted us to short-term rentals. And my wife was at a time where she wanted to try something new. So she got into the whole management of short-term rentals and got a course in how to do that. And she really enjoyed it. So we got our short-term rental, we set it up, she ran it, she loved it. And since then, we acquired two more. We got a few more long-term rentals. That's pretty much how we started in real estate.
That is so interesting because you nail on the head. I'm still a W-2 owner, right? I still have my day job. I'm sure before you decide to go into real estate full time, there's not much tax saving strategy out there will help with W-2 income earner, especially for high income earner. It's really not that much. So you talk about short-term rental, that's what we call like a cost segregation. That's why we call segregation short-term rental loophole to offset some of that income. And I can totally understand as a woman. I enjoy like, when you talk about short-term rental, those Airbnb that look so fancy, it's always very beautiful. I love
The whole
decorating
design
it.
thing, exactly. There you go.
It's a fun project for us. I can
Yeah.
tell why she fall into love with
Yeah.
that. So do you still own that short-term rental?
Yep.
Where is it?
Yep, we do. It's in Naples, Florida. It's a vacation spot. This is one of them. We like it. My wife is trying to step away from it and kind of graduate from being an employee in the property management business to actually being an owner. So we are looking into getting some assistance in place to help with the day-to-day management, where she already set up the whole operation, right? She knows how to do it. I'm trying to get her to systematize that, to put together some SOPs so that she can hand it off to someone else.
Maybe hire like a VA, you 10 cents on the dollar instead of you doing the work. That's very, very smart. How did that go from being a rental landlord now into building a system? Because you're coming out as a different background as well, right? Your specialty is software engineering. What does that mean? Do you work for what company?
I work for Microsoft and I lead a team of engineers over there. I have a background in software engineering. Pretty much since I started and I joined the communities in real estate that we're both part of, I tried to figure out how I can leverage my skills in growing the community and growing myself. And there there are several opportunities to do that. You hear people talking about integrations, systems all the time. And especially now with AI getting more and more embedded into our lives, there was a big need. That's how I started, and I started forming partnerships inside of the community. It was by bringing skills that I have to other people's businesses. So whether integrating the different platforms that they were using or helping them get AI installed in their business and used on a day-to-day basis. And just in talking to folks in the community, I got to talk to our friend, leader, mentor, Pace, and he had this opportunity that he was thinking about for a while, which was to put together a platform for our communities that we can list deals that currently are either being listed on people's individual platforms and they don't have a lot of visibility. It could be Shinyi's Dispo company or Mike's other company and Raz's website over here, right? So it's all kind of decentralized, which is fine, but it doesn't help with discoverability. So if you're a buyer, you would have to go to all these 3 different websites and you would have to know about them.
And it's really hard to capture them all because it's so segmented.
Yeah.
Right? He want to have it
exactly.
centralized.
And if it's not that, then it's probably a Facebook group where those deals might get lost. Depends on the Facebook algorithm. If you'll actually see them, you can't really get in touch with people all the time. You might either be put in Facebook jail or you're not friends with them, so your message request is going to get lost. So Pace had this idea to put together a platform that would replace this and solve this problem. So that's how Creative Listing was born. We brainstormed a little bit on that. Ingrid Hernandez was also a big leader in our community. She is involved putting together the vision for Creative Listing. And we got to work, I think about a month before Squad Up. And we launched in June at an event that we had inside the community in Monterey. And we've been live since.
So that's so interesting because I think before Creative Listing was born, most of the what we call the top dogs we're using for advertisement are mostly the on-market deal that we see from Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com. Those are the heavily used listing website for the on-market deal where it was represented. Usually the deal were represented by the realtor. But you are creating a brand new platform specific for individual seller. That's often are what we call the off-market deal that's not fully represented by the realtor, or it could be represented, but it's including all of them. Do you take on all the listing or just focus specifically? Because I see the name is Creative Listing, right? Why do we name as a Creative Listing? Is it because a certain type of listing we're targeting?
Yes and no. We called it Creative Listing because Pace is famous for creative financing, and most of our listings are creative type deals, and we accept everything. We have cash listings as well. Actually, cash listings are the second highest number of type of deals on the platform, but creative, either subject to or seller financing, are number 1 in terms of number of listings that are being posted. That also leads into why we built this, because there are platforms out there that you can post off-market deals on, both for residential and commercial type listings. And one of the things that they have in common is 1, they are pricey, and 2, they're not actually built with creative financing in mind. Our communities are so familiar with these topics and with these strategies of structuring the deals. That was one of the core principles in building Creative Listing, which was to build it with these concepts in mind. So you are able to post the lease option and you are able to post a hybrid deal, and you will have specific fields for that not only will you be able to capture them, which on other platforms you just have a big text box that you would have to put everything into, but you're able to search on those things.
That's a big one. You can set the filter. You want to see only the subject to deal versus only want to see the hybrid deal. If we want to see like seller financing, which is including all of them, or Morby method or something. That is so cool.
That's one of the reasons why we decided to build this ourselves, because we can actually build it from the ground up with these concepts in mind.
Wow, that's very cool. How many subscribers that as of today? You don't need to give us exact number.
Yeah, so I think I checked the numbers a couple of days ago, and we have around 9,000 users. We're trying to get to 10,000. So if you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. You can go ahead and create an account. 9,000 users, about 900 listings as well. We're working hard to get to 10,000. That's our milestone. We have an event coming up in October with our communities, and we set a goal to get to 10,000 users and to at least 1,000 listings by then. And I think we can make it.
That is so easy.
Yeah.
Knowing our community, it's going to be like one meetup. It's going to be adding like a couple hundred here and there. It won't take that long.
And Ingrid and I are going to be talking about it more. We have a few podcasts where we're going to be talking about it. Pace is doing that as well. So yeah, we'll get there.
I'm super excited for you. This is such a great opportunity because in my mind, I'm just thinking this is a brand new product. You basically are blazing the trail. And then if it's going to blow out, it's going to be the biggest platform for everybody who wanted to post any creative deal that's seller financing related or even like lease option, which is going to capture a lot of buyer who has problem buying houses through traditional financing method, right? For me, that's the biggest draw because a lot of time these people, mostly I think Spanish speaking community, a lot of them are self-employed owner. They often find their deals through Facebook. But like you said, the biggest problem with Facebook is so segmented and it's algorithm driven. So you had to be somehow related to the algorithm to see the post that it's not really easy to find. And you make it so easy to find and easily filter.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you brought up the buyer perspective because that is also a core principle that we are bringing to the platform. We do want to make this easy for the buyers and essentially an extension of this program that Pace launched a couple of years ago, where he wants to help people buy property who can otherwise not qualify in traditional financing ways. Them having access to this pool of listings that our community is acquiring and is trying to sell is a good opportunity.
You're essentially creating opportunity for people to achieve ownership through a alternative method, different route. They can go directly to the seller and facilitate the transaction. They don't have to necessarily go to realtor. Depends on if the deal will work. Is it possible for us to have you maybe demo for us? And I can just say, okay, Raz, maybe I'm looking to buy a house in Phoenix, Arizona right now. I wanted to buy specifically subject to deal or hybrid deal that I only can afford maybe less than $3,000 a month. Is it possible to search it in those criteria I just mentioned?
Yeah, let's have a
Let's
look and
do
see.
it.
All right, so you said Phoenix, so I'm selecting Phoenix.
Yes.
All right, here we are. We have a few in Phoenix, and you said you're interested in a subject too, and doesn't look like we have too many. So let's look at these. All right, so here's one. You get a breakdown of the price here, the down payment. Price is less relevant, right, than a subject to transaction. What you most care about is the down payment and your monthly
Correct.
payment
And the
here.
monthly.
Yeah, so you can see this. And we also have another one here. Oh, this one is interesting. 0 down and a bit more
Ah,
on
I
the
see.
monthly
Monthly is
payments.
a little bit higher. I'm
Yeah, so
curious
let's take a
though,
look.
is that
Yeah, so we can see the pictures here and we can see additional details, right? Like when this is what you would expect, right? So nothing too
right? Just
fancy
like
here.
Zillow. It's
Yeah,
very like
it
much
should
like
just be like
Zillow.
Zillow. And one thing that we have here is who this was listed by. So we make this very transparent that this is the person who listed it, this is their email, this is their phone number. We're not trying to hide this. You're welcome to contact them. You're also welcome to submit an offer here, right? And you can do either a cash offer or a creative offer and just answer a few basic questions. Once you submit this, there isn't anything formal or official that happens when you submit it. It just expresses your intent, and the person who is selling it will get notified that you submitted an offer. They will get your information and they will be in touch with you on whether they want to move forward or not. We make this essentially a connection, right? So you see what information they entered in here. This is a 4.75% interest, newer build and gated community. So a lot of the information that they wrote.
I think that's so cool that they can just submit an offer. I have not seen that kind of function built into any other platform so far. That is very impressive.
This is one of the things that we do. If you are a buyer and you told me, hey, I'm interested in Phoenix in this zip code, what you can do here is you can select your either your preferences. You can put in your preferred zip codes and also your buy box, essentially, right? The number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. And what we will do with this is we will match you with properties that fit this criteria. And you'll get notified that there is a new property that is available with this criteria. and you can go check it out, submit an offer if you want to.
I think that's also pretty awesome because I think in the past, if people wanted to do that, they would have to pick up the phone, call a realtor, and it's like, well, I need to search for single family home in this zip code, in this square footage, and then you have to wait for them to punch it in for you. And then even with that, the filter was not so defined. I remember at the old day when I'm trying to shop for my first house, I get a whole bunch of emails sent to me. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking for. I told you like this and this and that, but it was not sophisticated enough. He still sent me a whole bunch. So this is so cool. The buyer can decide what they're looking for and punch into their buying criteria, their profile, and they get email notice right away. And it doesn't cost them anything.
No, it doesn't cost them anything. The platform is free, so please sign up. We just launched this end of June. And so it's actually been 2 months since we launched it. There is a lot of work that is still ahead of us in terms of functionality and features that we want to add. And some of the things that we want to add is we want to expand from single family homes to other types of assets like land. RV parks are a popular choice right now and a popular request we get. We definitely want to do that. We are likely going to expand into multifamily soon. It's a process. The more users we have giving us feedback, the better we can make this for everybody. It's kind of an economy, supply and demand thing. So the more buyers we get and the more sellers, the more valuable the platform becomes for everybody.
Right. And more people sign up, more opportunity, more listing, that just drive more traffic. It's like ongoing.
One other thing that I wanted to mention, because there are people in our communities that have dispo companies. As I mentioned in the beginning, they might have had their own websites where they were listing their properties for sale. If they list them here, they get the advantage that they get matched to buyers immediately. They can also see what the heat maps look like for the buyers. We give them some analytics for where the buyers are and what is their pricing power. But also inside of our community, we have a higher level community that's called Owners Club. And these folks are usually buyers in many different areas of the country. They get some exclusive rights to these deals that they get posted. And you might be able to just sell to folks in Owners Club who might buy them for their own portfolio or who might decide to sell them later on. This map here is showing the locations where Owners Club people are buying. This is also an opportunity to highlight them and to see who they are. And
I'm curious if I'm on the map. Are we able to see all the people's name on the map and then where they're located?
not where they're located, but where they're buying, right? So if you're buying in Phoenix, for example, then you would
Right.
show up under Phoenix.
I can see it's very searchable. It's pretty user friendly. It's very close to Zillow, other searching platform. But let's just say if the buyer found a house on the map, they look at the price, I like the price, or I really like that house, and then they email and call the listing person. It's not listing agent anymore, just anybody who can list it on the platform. What would happen next, right? Because this is not a traditional sale and they don't have a realtor often represented to them. How would they draw out the contract and negotiate the price?
So from the platform, they would get the information for the seller, right? So they would get the email and the phone number. Essentially what they would do on Facebook, they would get in touch with the person who is listing and they would have a conversation. Right now, we don't facilitate beyond that, but we are working on integrating with transaction coordination services, with title and escrow services, so that we can offer a complete package for someone who is new and just wants a done for you, handled for you, A to Z transaction. So right now, the platform itself is not supporting more than just facilitating that connection, but we are going to integrate with additional services along the line.
I'm glad I asked that question because there is always an intention to kind of offer a full-on package for the buyer. So you have people they can connect with, help write out a contract, and escrow company they can connect with locally on maybe on the database to help them, okay, these are the title company that we recommend in this particular geographic area to help you close. That's the next step, it sounds like. Can I ask you to show me like how many listings in Maryland? I'm just curious because I live in Maryland.
We have
Oh,
a
you can blow
few.
out.
Look at that. And you have some, this is a seller financing deal. You have some cash deals too. Oh, this is subject to, and these are cash.
I see. Cash you're usually just like for fix and flip opportunity, it sounds like.
Probably,
Okay.
yeah. Let's see this one. Annapolis. Wholesale deal.
I see.
Exit strategy, renovate and add on.
I love it. It's a lot of flexibility I can see from in terms of like what to list on there. Does it connect with any public data information or just all manually key in?
Not right now. Right now, we are just allowing user entered listings here.
I see. Have we started monetize this in some way, or does end user have to pay for anything, or
No.
does it list nothing? It's all free.
It's all free. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Please go and create users, create accounts, and even if
Right.
you're just a buyer, it doesn't cost you anything. It is all free. We do have a monetization strategy, but we want to work on the feature set for now and get out of a beta phase before we can do that. And it's likely not going to be based on monetizing on users. It's going to be through partnerships.
This is too good to be true. I have no doubt you're gonna reach 10,000 subscriber very soon. Most of the time, like I'm an agent, I'm licensed. Somebody gotta make money. Like right now, for anybody who posts anything on MLS, for the realtor represented deal, like there's always a cut that's being taken off on the deal, paid to the broker. I can foresee this listing just gonna blow out to just completely blew other platform away who was charging fee, and usually the fees are pretty steep.
That's a good point about the agents. And also, if you are an investor and you're wholesaling and you're trying to dispo or sell your properties, there are platforms that charge several thousands of dollars per month to get access and for you to be able to list your properties there. There's certain perks that come with that, of course. But yeah, we are not doing that.
Well, let's switch the gear a little bit. So this is super awesome. I'm so proud of you making this happen. This is gonna blow out. I have no doubt about it. But other than this, I know you have a sign behind you that says Sunrise Capital Partner. Let's talk about that a little bit.
One of the other things that I did when I joined our communities and started in real estate was, again, part of that diversification strategy. I decided to start lending as a private money lender on different projects, fix and flips, some transactional loans. So I started right away, pretty much as soon as I joined. Had some good deals, some good returns, some bad deals. Some I'm still working on recovering because that's how it is. You live and you learn.
Okay, I gotta stop you there because you know me. I'm always want to learn and know about what the deal went wrong so we can learn. You don't have to give us granular details. How did it go wrong? Maybe just give us a few.
Well, I'll tell you about this one that we're in now because this is something that's very recent and it has to do, and I feel the borrower's pain here because it's a fix and flip in Florida. The Florida market has been flooded with inventory and also flooded literally with hurricanes. And this borrower of ours was actually hit by the two hurricanes that hit Florida last year. So his timeline was completely destroyed, and not to mention his property, literally. Fortunately, he didn't have to rebuild, but completely. But he still had to do some drywall work and
Right.
a bunch of repairs to an already listed property. Not fun. The market has just been going down to the point where this was a luxury flip. I think the appraised value went down $500,000. So quite a bit. Yeah, it's just been very, very unfortunate. There are things that you can underwrite for, and there are things that you just can't.
I know, like that's what we call the force majeure, unpredictable, weather related, the earthquake, hurricane, just all of a sudden, like nobody can predict that, like COVID, for example.
So even the first position lender did not foreclose on them because of that, because they were hit by all these natural disasters that weren't their fault.
Yeah, and it's also smart for them to not foreclose on them. Imagine if they foreclose on them, what they're getting. The house that need fixed. They're just not in the business of fixing the houses. They want to get
Exactly.
paid with interest.
Yeah. So what they did instead was they raised the interest. They're struggling now to keep the property, and they got to a point where I think it's no longer sustainable. So now they started ghosting everyone, which is not a good sign.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we'll see how we go about that. But in any case, there are deals like that that go bad as well. But what I've learned in these 3 years and what I started focusing on is transactional funding. And that is what Sunrise Capital Partners is all about. I'm partners with Effie Colbeans on that. And she's a host of What the Effie.
You know, I love Effie. She's so cool. She's the coolest Canadian woman I've ever met. Like, I hope if I'm like into her age, I could be still that cool.
Yeah. She's
Yeah, she's
awesome.
pretty
And the
awesome.
amount of F bombs that she drops in our
Mhm.
conversations is amazing. She's very awesome. And I'm very grateful that I'm partners with her. So we started this in April this year. So not that long ago. We are focusing on transactional deals. We're only doing double closes and seller carryback. I know they go by a ton of different names like Morby method, stack method, preferred equity method. We call them seller carrybacks. And those are the types of deals that we are funding.
I think that's actually the safest way of lending money. What does that mean essentially when you're trying to lend to somebody who's double closed? Where did money go?
So, one of the things that attracted us to this type of lending or funding is the fact that the money is escrow protected. So, it doesn't leave escrow when you send it. So, it's safer than sending the money to your borrower directly into their bank account where they might not pay you back. Now, a double close is a strategy that is often employed by wholesalers, by people who acquire properties at a low price to sell it off at a higher price. They negotiate a really good price, they keep the difference, and they sell it off.
They're making the spread,
They're making the
basically.
spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Double closes are a strategy that is used in several of these transactions for multiple reasons. One, the wholesaler might not want to disclose how much money they're making. What is the spread? It might be so big that it can cause problems.
Right. The end buyer will be mad.
Yeah, like,
Right.
hey, you bought it for 50,000 less? Like,
You're
are you
selling for
kidding me?
500.
Yeah, not only the buyer, the lenders as well. Sometimes the lenders wouldn't accept a very high wholesale fee. Double closing is a strategy that solves that problem because it's literally two transactions. They just happen back to back, usually within the same day or within 24 to 48 hours. What that does is there is no longer an assignment fee. There is a person who bought it and then they sold it to somebody else. Now, wholesalers are the person who bought it, and they usually don't have the full amount that they need to actually buy it because the transaction gets executed. In order for them to actually do this transaction, they would bring on a transactional funder who would bring the funds for a fee, and then the transactional funder gets paid from the second transaction when they sell it to their end buyer. Two different transactions, hence the name double closing, and we fund the first leg of the transaction because the wholesaler might not have the funds.
I see. So they essentially use your money to close the deal. And there's sounds like a 24, 40 hours time that they're bona fide buyer. And they essentially
Yeah,
turn around, become a seller to sell it to the end buyer. That happened
exactly.
within a day or two. So they
Yeah.
use your money to close it.
Yeah. And our money stays in escrow, and that's the thing that we like about it.
Right. So that's just means that it never leaves the title company, basically. It's
Correct.
like a switching a bank account, basically. What about Morby method transactional funding? Then that's a little bit different, right?
That is a little bit different, and that's a little bit more complex. It's talked about quite a bit, and there are a lot of folks who are teaching it in the correct way. There are a lot of ways in which you can do it wrongly, just like with everything creative related, right? Creative is not really for the faint of heart. Morby method or seller carryback are a type of transaction where it's usually for long-term rentals or a type of rentals where you get the proper loan on the property, like an investment loan, usually called a DSCR loan, which is just a fancy way of saying that your rent is paying for the mortgage.
Yeah, it's like asset-based lending, like your income have to cover the debt.
Why is seller carryback or Morby method attractive? That's because in situations where sellers have enough equity on the property, you might be able to negotiate with them that they would seller finance or seller carry back a portion of that equity for you. In certain markets, and especially in this time when sellers are struggling to sell at their asking prices and they have to keep on bringing down their prices, it's a good negotiating technique. And if they have that ability as a buyer, if you are looking to build your portfolio, you can do so pretty rapidly with this transaction, as long as you know what you're doing, because there are high risks with this method as well, to get into properties with a low entry fee. Where we come in is we fund the portion that is needed to cover the difference between what the investment loan brings and the actual purchase price. So if the investment loan is, let's say, 80%, we would bring in the 20% that is needed plus closing costs to close the transaction. And we would get paid by the seller actually financing back a portion of their equity.
Ah, I see. So you basically filled in the gap to
Yes.
cover that portion that the DSCR loan or whatever other type of investment loan wouldn't lend because they never lend up to 100%. That's,
Yeah.
they're going to be like 70 to 75% mostly.
Right.
You fill in the gap, and you also cover the closing costs, and then you get paid when the seller carry back to kick you out to fill in that hole.
That's right.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yep.
And then who pay you? Seller pay you or the buyer pay you?
The sellers. They usually lump our fee into the loan and we get paid from the seller carryback note that gets recorded against the property.
Ah, I see. So essentially the buyer doesn't really need to have any money or maybe very little money in the
It
pocket to
could be,
buy it.
yeah. It really depends on the deal. They could have very little money, they could have no money down, or they could actually get paid on the deal. But it's really deal specific, and the buyer should really look into the numbers. They need to know what they're doing because one of the major risks for them is that they are over leveraging the property.
Right. The appraisal didn't match the
Right.
number.
It's usually the case that sellers who are going for these methods are having a hard time selling on the market. That means the market is telling them, hey, your purchase price is not as high as you want, or your Zestimate from Zillow is not what you
Right.
want.
The estimate.
Yeah.
That's
And
usually what I call the dream price. Like, they're living in the dream that they are hoping to get that price, but if the market has rejected it, usually it's, 90 days plus on the market, then they start getting a little more realistic.
yeah.
Maybe I will have to drop the price, but I don't really want to drop the price. And this would be a great strategy to
Yeah.
create win-win.
Yeah, but that's also a risk for the buyer, right? If they buy the property and they over leverage it and they realize 6 months from now that their short-term rental strategy, let's say, is not cash flowing, and they have the two bills that they're paying, right? One for the investment loan and the other one for the seller carryback. They need to come up with this, and all of a sudden they can say, hey, I can't keep up with this. I need to sell it. They might have to come out of
Right.
pocket to sell it. So that's
Right.
the risk to them.
That's a really great point because they over leverage, so there's nobody else going to offer that price they got into. So that's still good for you, good business for you because your risk for you is pretty low. It sounds like you're going to be closing within the day or two time frame, so your money are being used very efficiently and you get to charge for higher rate, but minimum risk.
Yeah, that's essentially what we're going for. We're not the only ones who are doing this. There are multiple people who are doing this, who are teaching this as well. We're talking to them, we're friends with all of them. What Effie and I have discussed is that we don't want to do business with just anyone. So what I mean by that is that if there's
Relationship. Mm-hmm.
it's about the relationships, but it's also about the strategy, right? Like if someone were to come and say, hey, I have this seller carry back, but I'm over leveraging the property 150%, we would be like, you're actually putting the seller in a pretty bad spot there, and I don't know if we're a good fit. But if there's someone who has a good use case, for example, they're setting up an Airbnb and they need the extra 10% to furnish, right?
Yeah, to furnish.
That's a legitimate use case, so that's
Right.
probably something that we would fund.
I love it. I love how you're focusing on the clientele. You focus on building relationship, the trustworthy relationship people perform and they have a good track record. That is very smart and fantastic. Yeah, I'm so excited to see you have so many things going on. You're building creative listing. Now you're making money on the side, just like the bank. And I want to thank you again for coming up today and share with us everything that you've done so far. Before we close, I want to have a shout out. Like, how do people reach out to you? How do they reach out to you if they want to do business with you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. First of all, it was a pleasure being here and connecting with you and chatting a bit with you and your audience. You can reach me on Instagram. My handle is on the screen. I'm sure we'll put it in the description as well. That's the best way to reach out. Follow me, DM me. Happy to have a chat.
Are you answering all your DM on Instagram?
I am, yeah.
Not a robot.
I'm not a robot.
Not a robot yet. So there you go, everybody. Thank you for joining in, and thank you, Raz Mihalyi. Did I say that right?
You did, you did. All right,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much
much.
for coming. I have so much time, and I look forward to seeing you next time when we
Yeah.
meet again.
Likewise, thanks, Shinyi.